Hi, and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh, and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we interview people from various artistic disciplines. These episodes are sometimes full-length interviews from our site's articles, and other times exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back, and if you're new here, thanks for checking us out. We hope you'll like it and stick around with us. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we speak with Rhyss Davies, Kev Kennedy, Lenin Mitchell, Mark Moloney, Neil O'Flanagan and Sam Shepard of the Dublin-based pop-punk hip-hop fusion Sauce Gang collective. They discuss their formation, their latest single Nintendo 08, their upcoming sophomore album Mustard Melodies, their live shows, writing music about modern-day Ireland, and more. Also, what you're about to hear is about 10 minutes in from where I started recording, as we were waiting for more people to join and stuff, so... Yeah, just for context, we've been talking for about 10 minutes at the beginning of this.
I suppose we can start now, Aaron, if you want.
Yeah, grand. It's nice to meet you all, by the way. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, like, beginning, like, as a project. My understanding is that, like, it was Lenny and Rhyss's, like, project to begin with, and then kind of like everyone else kind of got added in after the fact. Is that correct? Or
Let you take that.
Okay. Yeah, no, Rhyss was just coming over during COVID, and we're just making music together. Really, we never thought of it as like a project for like a while, because like also I live with Neil as well during COVID, so Neil was also there making like bass lines and knowing what the keys are.
yeah.
And then just whenever people could come over, they would like everyone would be chipping in. So we just decided want to make it under one name, you know. That's more what we're thinking.
Did you all know then, or did you just kind of meet because of the project?
No, I was the last tag on, so you guys go ahead and we'll get to me.
Sorry if I talked over you there.
What you say, Sam?
What?
Oh, I said I was the last tag on, so like I suppose it was after COVID, first album had been released, and Lenny and Neil were at. Lenny was seeing me and Neil at another gig that we were playing in a band, and after that, sort of went by the wayside. Lenny said, "Can you come play some drums for me?" And they're all electronic drums, but had a bit of crack learning them and changing the sound of the band entirely.
Yeah, big time, absolutely.
But otherwise, it was just you guys during COVID, really, was it? And putting bars back in COVID.
Me, Lenny, and Mark went to school together when we were younger, and then Lenny and Mark know each other like way longer. And then I met Neil just briefly before Sauce Gang kicked off, and that was true, Lenny. I'd say that's kind of how we all know each other.
And then I know Rhyss from school.
Yes, Rhyss is
what about me?
As you can imagine, we found Rhyss on the side of the street one day.
I did say Rhyss's name, by the way, at the start. I'm just saying that. So can you stop gaslighting me? Only like 2 seconds into this interview. Sound.
Well, Mark, go ahead.
Sorry.
Mark was saying something.
I was just saying, I know.
How'd you meet me, Mark?
Well, I met Rhyss from school. I've said it like 3 times now.
Sorry, Mark, where'd you meet me?
All right, okay. Aaron, please ask another question.
Yeah, we'll move on. I'm starting to wake up now.
Well, what were you all like kind of like into, I guess? Like, what were you all like in other projects, or for some of you, was this like your first project, or what was sort of that?
I think like so me and Sam were kind of in a band before before lockdown, before all that kind of stuff. We were doing a bit of gigging, and Sam has done a lot of gigging. In fairness, Sam's probably the most
been in a few bands.
Sam and Mark are like the trained musical performers. The rest of us are kind of blow-ins. They're the ones who performed. Well, you are all in a band together, and you did all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true. Yeah, me, Mark, and Kevin were all in a band before when we were in secondary school as well.
But this band, let's talk about this band.
Yeah.
What are the influences?
Influences, hip hop, obviously.
No, for your old band.
What?
Your old band.
No, Neil.
Yeah, we're not talking about this band anymore, you know? Fuck this band.
Let's go way, way back. No,
Talk about any band you want.
Oh, Sam, do that.
Oasis are class.
Never heard them.
What about you, Kev?
Right.
It's grand.
This was my first project anyway, other than the one that we did when we were 16. You had one, didn't you, Flower?
I did. Aaron knows pretty well with Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Indeed.
The dog got put down.
Yeah, the dog got brought out the back.
Afternoon in the farm.
You went to go live on the farm.
Yeah.
We was at Ballston Sauce Gang with like your other projects too, and like cause like so many of you guys, like I mean like how's like kind of like arranging everyone? How's that like come about?
Terrible.
It's definitely a
Fucking
needs
woeful.
must. Like it's a needs must sort of scenario. Before gigs, we can get two, 3 practices out a week, and everyone's able to make themselves available. But that lull period, like I'm in college, Kev, you're working full time, Rhyss is working,
Yeah.
arts teacher, like the lads are all doing something the whole time. Neil
Yeah.
works now. Before Neil worked late, we were practicing a little bit more often, but I think the bar work is pretty killer in that regard.
Yeah, I've ruined the band.
You're the worst.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
But no, like since we gotten this new album on the undergo, we kind of got that recorded, gigged a couple of times, and it's been fairly chill. But when we need to practice, I think the important thing is we're always in Glasnevin.
Yeah, that's it.
Make it happen.
Yeah, it's like when push comes to shove, we can do it, you know. But
But
in
like that's an
general,
hour and a
we're
half
pretty
journey
bad.
for me as well.
Push it.
So there's commitment, be real. And the lads came down. I live down near Bray, and I think Kev, you said is the furthest south of the Liffey you'd ever been besides the Aviva.
Yeah. It's the furthest I'm allowed south of the Liffey.
And so they made their trek for an hour and a half out for band practice. Like, lads, this is great. We should do this every time. Haven't seen them since. Like,
Yeah, that was like 6 months ago.
fucking
So-
over the old.
Saw wide open fields for the first time, you know.
But like we all do sort of
Same donkeys
conglomerate
for the first time.
in Glasnevin in Pirate Studios when needs more, like as Rhyss said, when push comes to shove, it's pretty easy to get us all out there.
Well, obviously, like the music when you listen to it, I mean, it's like so kind of like I don't know. There's like so many like different elements and different parts to it. Like like how tight do you kind of have to get those when you're practicing, or is there kind of room for improv?
Oh, there's a lot of room, I think, for improv. I think what's quite beneficial about it, and not even like just in a stylistic way, there's a lot of opportunities for people to like drop in and drop out. So like even if you're playing live and you mess up a line, you can kind of just cheekily stop playing, and the audience is like, "Ooh, this is a different section." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something is happening so dynamically. But I find maybe it's just me because I do a lot of the lead
Yeah,
lines.
we let Neil.
Yeah.
We let lead little boys.
All of it.
Yeah. I kind of
We write music, and then for Neil, we're like, we don't know what to tell Neil to do, so Neil, just here you go, deal with that, you know?
I wing it.
To be fair, like God forbid anyone else was allowed to do that.
yeah, I think it'd be
Yeah, like in terms of like what we'd like to talk about our sound and that, I definitely think punk is shoved in there purely because our live gigs things just go like people are hitting frets and hitting rims left, right, and center, not hitting their skin. Like we just let that set into the genre because punks think we're fucking shit about what they were playing on stage, and that's kind of a nice part of Kevin Kennedy's gone. Yeah, that's a nice part of it for sure. I'm just
Thank God, lads, now we can be honest. But yeah, I think we shove kind of punk in there because we're not actually great, but it's like our copium to say that, oh, you know, we're not very good, so we're punk.
Yeah, I can relate.
yeah, definitely the bum notes are fun.
Yeah, for sure.
on the drums and that.
Yeah.
Love a good boom, you know.
Yeah. I love knowing a good bum.
Talking about like with so many like members, like what do you find that each person kind of brought to like the sound in terms of like influences or whatever, or do you find like I don't know, like kind of your influences kind of get subsided in terms of like what you're actually trying to achieve with the music itself?
I think there's a really nice balance between influences.
Mm.
Yeah.
So when I like at the very beginning, kind of, I knew Mark, Lenny, Kev all had a big interest in like hip hop. And Rhyss was over on the like kind of pop punk side of things. Whereas I was like very classic rock, 70s dad rock,
Yeah.
or like jazz or classical music. And you kind of expect, oh well, that stuff's that's gonna take a back seat and everything else is gonna be in the forefront. And like it definitely sounds like that. But no matter how much Rhyss does try to edit it out, I do get pretty jazzy at the best of times when we record, and like I try to bring in a lot of that, and I feel like everyone's definitely given space to like have a moment where they bring in more of their, like there's even in the live shows, there's a song where What You Got to Say, where they let me do a blues piano solo. The song's not a blues song, in any kind of real sense, but just for a little bit, I get to go like to diddle diddle diddle, and like there is a nice kind of ebb and flow within the band of people being given the space to be like, okay, that's your thing, do your thing if you want to do your thing,
Yeah,
Or just
everyone
shout
gets a
at
time
people.
for their piece, like.
Yeah, everybody's got, like, we all kind of quite similar in terms of music, ostensibly, just because we can all get down to Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
Like, aside from that, like, Rhyss and I and Mark be sort of heavily into the, like, pop punk sort of things, and I'd cross over with Mark and sort of more indie rock, Kevy, and some of the more pop things. And some serious fucking, like, everybody, there's a massive spider web all around.
A very fun Venn diagram.
Yeah, there's overlap, but there's also, everybody has their independence, kind of like, this is my thing, and someone might kind of share that with you, but it's not like we all share it. It's like we all kind of connect each other then.
For sure.
Musically wise.
It kind of comes to the production side of your music. I mean, I think there's like a bit of a kind of like a focus on like the hip hop element, but like I don't know, for your perspective, I mean, do you find that there is just as much emphasis put on the kind of rock live band sound as much as there is to hip hop, or how do you find that balance is from, like, I guess, a production standpoint?
From production, I think realistically from the first album, because we didn't really have, like, Sam wasn't really there at the time, I think it definitely was a bit more aligned towards like having a hip hop sound with like electronic drums and stuff like that.
Yep.
But obviously then once we brought Sam in and that we were showing Sam drums, and he was like, okay, yeah, no, I mean, I can play that. It's pretty easy. I think trying to balance the whole hip hop and kind of like live drums and stuff like that. I think Sam honestly balances it really well, where he can kind of get that sort of sound but make it his own in a way. So it's kind of like with the first album, it was hip hop because we didn't have a drummer, so it was kind of like electronic sounding. Whereas at least with our new album now, I think we're incorporating Sam's sound because he's become part of our sound now live. It's probably a lot less hip hop sounding, but he's still kind of doing the same kind of vibe. But it's real drums now, and he's kind of doing all those fun sort of sounds.
I'm going to chime in there as well. Thank you, Rhyss, for those kind words.
Man. That was
You're
great.
a bitch.
Well done, Rhyss.
You're a bitch, Sam. I hate you.
He has to written down.
I think the best thing to think about there is, like, if you listen to On Bangers and Brown Sauce, not Do It All Again, Pictures of You. Pictures of You is that sort of nice, there's a little crap beat behind it. And I came in, and like by the third week of, what was it, this time 2 years ago now?
Yeah, be about that.
I came in and I remember the lads being fairly like, what is he doing? Because we played this song 5 times and we've never played it so fast and hard. And you hear our live pictures of you now. We go fucking awful very hard at it. And it's totally different to
other side of the spectrum, like
the
First
album.
album definitely would have sounded way different and in a much better way if
Yeah.
Sam
I
was-
know, but it's a beautiful thing because you guys fucking nailed that album as well. That's why I got involved. It's like fucking Bangers and Brown Sauce, full of them, full of the bangers and the brown sauce.
But even with that as well, I was chiming in like with the album and how we perform it live. We all had to add a lot of extra parts in general.
yeah,
Because on the actual album, I'm only on 3 of the songs, but we've added about, I'd say that we do about 6 songs from the album, do we? 7?
About that.
Yeah, but
Yeah. So I had to write like verses and put them in, and then people do listen to the songs and they're like, just pieces missing from
yeah.
from this.
We didn't. Yeah, we didn't. We honestly, I don't think we really had an end goal in mind when we were making the first album. We
No.
kind of just obviously we were making the songs and like we were like, fuck it, we'll make an album. But then we're like, oh crap, we're gonna play this live, you know. So obviously you have to change some stuff around. But
Actually, I
Well,
think
yeah,
we're
I think-
talking like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, kind of chiming in what the lads were saying there. I think, especially with the album that we have, that we're going to be releasing this year, I think we all kind of took the conscious effort to kind of replicate the energy that we get from the live shows and
Facts.
try
Yeah.
and have that in the record.
Mm.
Yeah.
big
Because I
time.
think we would get people kind of saying to us after, especially in terms of Bangers and Brown Sauce, saying like, you sound so completely live than you would like on an album.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I suppose with the next album that we have coming out, I think it's going to be a more consistent Sauce Gang sound. Like the
Experience.
first album was very much us, I suppose, finding our feet,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then this one, I feel like it's going to be like a, I suppose, proper statement, and that's kind of how the music's evolved as well. Like from playing live, we kind of know a bit more about what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, kind of
That's
like, I guess, kind of getting used to each other, playing together in your own styles. I mean, does that have an impact too in terms of how the new songs are written?
Big time.
Yeah.
I like we done a bit of jamming, like not like because there was I definitely wasn't a part of any of the jamming for Bangs and Brown Sauce, and I don't know how much of that there was. It feels like you guys just sort of recorded something that was what you were using, and you put it all together, and it just beauty came out of it.
The
That's
whole
exactly
song,
what it was.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
shouting upstairs like Neil, do any
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then jamming in Pirate and spending like an hour on a practice, we'd come up with sort of like 5 riffs, you know, and we'd
Yeah.
play each of the 5 riffs differently week to week and see which one stuck.
Yeah.
And like different drum beats, different bass lines, keys. Neil, you'd go fucking ham on finding the right synth for the like, and I think that's as Mark was saying, created a much more fun and dynamic album for the next one.
Yeah.
Mutard Melodies.
Before we talk about the new album, I just want to stay on Bangers and Brown Sauce for a minute. Yeah, I mean, like, so I think we were talking earlier. So, like, you guys recorded the album before you did a live show. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
recorded the album before we were a band.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Realistically, yeah.
Yeah.
How did you
It
guys
was
record it
kind of
during
very
the
much so,
lockdown? Sorry,
What's that? What is
Huh?
I was just saying, how did you guys get it done during the lockdown?
Well, there was a lot
Breaking
of
the law.
Wasn't it?
Okay,
No,
fair
well,
enough.
let's not say breaking the law. We were legally economic.
The Lewis is free.
Upwards.
I had to get a bus from East Wall to
Yeah.
Big Grange.
And
It's about 5 kilometers, let's face it, you know?
we were lucky enough in the fact that me and Lenny were like renting a place, and like it was we were lucky, like it was a house, so like Lenny had a massive room, we could like have a studio in there and stuff, and it wasn't like the kind of mass spreader event that it could have been. It was like, you know, we're all fairly chilled out. And like during lockdown, no one was really up to anything. So
It technically became a social bubble.
Well,
And
that's it, like, you know.
It became like a thing of we're like, oh, well, we see each other like multiple times every week now. Like,
I was pretty much living part-time in your gaff at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I was there most weekends because I was living a bit out of the way. But,
and that's, as you were saying there as well, got the album done before they did the live shows. Lenny didn't want to be playing drums or electronic drums on stage.
Yeah.
You know, I was just coming out of another band, so I was again a need for the band to be able to play live, and then I came in and just fucking Dave Grohl the entire affair, and no more mumble rap.
yeah, you can't mumble rap over live drums. It's difficult to hear. Kev's in a blanket. All right.
But like, and Lenny's changed that up fucking incredibly as well, and we're having so much fun with Lenny's sound. That's the next one. I don't know where the fuck he is, but
yeah, he didn't even say
just
anything. He just walked out. Oh, I hear the toilet flushing. He's
bangers and brown sauce.
bangers and brown sauce.
Oh God.
oh, God. There he is.
Sorry.
How are you?
Just in time for me to ask you about the new record then. So the first song off it is Nintendo Away. And I was wondering, like, why'd you go for this song as the lead single?
Will I take that one?
Yeah.
So you were all talking about making music the whole time. I just sit in the corner and wait till they're finished and I write. Now, we kind of were, like, we had the vast majority of the songs that we were doing on the album. Like, I'd say at least half of them ready at the time. And we just kind of said which one would hit the hardest, which one would sound the best live, and which one could, like, we give the best title to. And I think through doing that, like, not only commercially but also sonically, it was probably our best option to release out of what we have. Now, the rest of the stuff is great. When it comes to, like, impact and having impact off the bat, that would have been our strongest one to go for.
I think it showcases as well, you know, it's a good one to start off because I think in a way it is a little bit different from what Bangers and Brown Sauce is, but it is something that we would play live. So it's a good kind of showcase to be like, listen, obviously we still play hip hop or whatever, but here's a really rocking song as well, you know?
Yeah, like on that, like I think it's a really good, because as you say, like there are definitely elements that are like very similar to Bangers and Brown Sauce and also very different. And I think it's a really nice lead in, like just conceptually, when we are in the position of like, oh, that first album came out, we didn't really know what we were doing. So now that the second album is coming out, we know what we're doing. It's going to sound very different. And I think coincidentally, Nintendo 08 just works as a nice little like, okay, so
intro.
Like, we still know what the first album was, but we've kind of cultivated a little bit more and like nailed it down what we're trying to do a little bit more, and that's kind of, it's a good bridge between albums, I think, you know.
Also, there's another wave on the way.
That's
very nice.
Yeah,
You're
I
saying
think it's
definitely an introductory sort of like, it's fucking What's the Sauce is coming on this album as well, isn't it? We played that a few times. It's got that sort of energy of, it was written quite like soon after What's the Sauce, I think. Got that sort of cool synth line. But it's still kind of, you know, what are we about in a song? That sort of feeling throughout the whole song is like, this is definitely our identity smashed all over it, stamped all over it.
Now that you're performing live, do you often now gauge what songs to go with based on like audience reaction compared to the first one where you weren't
100%.
I think that is the main kind of focus for us, especially because there was even some stuff that we performed live off Bangers and Brown Sauce, and you just tell the crowd we're not getting behind it at all. So we are just not doing that anymore.
Justice for Kumbh Karna.
That'd be sick with the auto-tuner now. I'm just saying.
Now's not the time.
I'm not doing it.
Right. Anyway.
But I think even with the new songs that are coming out, I think us to be able to play them live, I think that's a massive factor. And I think even getting a good reception off Nintendo 08 before we released it as a single, had a part to play.
We did, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was the best feedback we got about a new song that we've ever performed live. Like a lot of people are kind of coming out and being like, "Oh, that new song's deadly."
Yeah,
and like the rest of the songs before that were absolutely woeful. But I'm only messing. But yeah.
I actually want to talk about the lyrics for Nintendo 08 a little bit. So, yeah, it's kind of like about the this is how I read it anyway, about the recession in 2008, the global recession, and kind of like my read of it was like, you know, kind of like being a kid and sort of like being distracted by like the Wii and stuff, and playing with your sister, and then as you grow older, you know, you kind of get like, you know, you become an adult and you kind of like have to start paying attention to the economy, have to start paying attention to you know, rent prices and stuff like that, just stuff that's like completely not fun. And like what my takeaway from the song was that you guys are saying like really nothing has changed since that recession. I mean, people are still you know, living paycheck to paycheck. Like people are still really struggling. Yeah, I was wondering like if you could talk about the lyrics a little bit.
Yeah, so
verse by verse.
Yeah,
we'll go verse by verse.
First by first.
Yeah.
So Mark,
Just rap the song, lads.
Yeah. Just sing it a cappella.
No, so Mark brought forward like this guitar riff, and I remember initially you wanted to make it real like call and response kind of thing, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought
it was like a really funky thing at the start.
Yeah. And then I was playing it and I was like, I have this idea for this, and then everyone unanimously was like,
no.
Yeah.
So I started writing, and like I wrote the first verse, and yeah, pretty much exactly what you said. You may as well have done a Genius profile on the song for what you said there. It was very on point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just kind of thought back a lot of my stuff when I write. I like to write about kind of like past experiences and like
nostalgia trip, like
I'm a big nostalgia merchant, and I was just kind of thinking about that. I was like, oh, what would sound good? And I was like, that bit there while I played Nintendo Wii with my sister, and I just kind of I ran off that and then kind of brought it back to like, okay, how do you get to this point at the end of the verse, and then I think we wrote the chorus next. I got the lyrics for the chorus. But I remember again, Mark was saying like, oh, we need something that hits, where it's just kind of like it's just like a shout, kind of like a Rage Against the Machine kind of thing. And I was like, okay, say less. And then I wrote that part, and then Lenny had the great idea, pretty much, of being like, oh, I'm gonna do it from like what it's like now, so that we have like the both sides of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, like
how it hasn't changed.
Yeah, it's like the way I see it is kind of like Kev's verse is like as if you're in 2008, kind of experiencing that as a child, whereas then Lenny's verse is like what it's like now, and it's, you know, they're both kind of talking about a similar situation, but they're both, well, not even similar. It's the same situation, but it's almost 10, 20 years later.
Yeah.
Like a history repeats itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I was just talking about like I just talked about how I felt now, because it was like Kevin said, he loves talking about past experiences. I like whenever I'm rapping, it's more fun for me to just talk about like the feelings that are coming up now or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just talking about how like my experiences renting and living in Dublin and not having a lot of money to throw around, you know, you're always having to save just for rent, pretty much, and working just to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Working just to save so you could have enough money to pay rent, you know. Yeah.
And just I try to make it just a little bit more, you know, funny, or like
yeah.
Like, I didn't want to make it too heavy for the song, because it was already like it's just more of an upbeat kind of. You more want to get people energetic and mad than like sad. You know?
Yeah, well,
it's like tongue in cheek. You know, this is my situation, and just like internally screaming, I'm suffering with this. Right. You know.
Yeah,
and I think that was definitely the approach everyone kind of had towards my verse at the end.
Yeah.
where it was almost like
It's getting the fucking.
I talk a lot about like
microphone.
politics, like kind of stuff, just in general life. The lads are sick of it. We don't need to get into it. It's fine. I know I'm a burden. But it was kind of already supposed to be this idea because like I knew like obviously it was difficult for everyone, but I come from like a very different set of circumstances, kind of, and I didn't really want to have this disingenuous like kind of trying to mimic what they were talking about. So like even I remember chatting to Kevin and Lenny about it, and we kind of just landed on this idea of like almost delivering this like speech of like, okay, we've discussed the kind of emotions of it and the experiences of it, but like
Here's the facts.
I wanted to make an actual like direct be like, we're
Give me the megaphone.
Song, but also like I'm actually going to be serious for a second. This is this is what I see as the issues, and this is what I see as like the kind of like the mentality behind that, which kind of I feel like is quite nice in terms of like a balance between the
three verses. The three verses are really fun,
and then just angry political jargon.
Ranting. It's sort of fucking the representative from Dublin has the floor.
Yeah.
Just
lucky Deputy Stag wasn't there.
Yeah. For like as well for the riff. Mark, you had the riff, and then Neil, you had a really, really nice synth riff to go along with it.
Well, it was literally copying what Mark had, and it was just a sound that I had on the synth.
Then like we'd been, because we were writing a lot of music at the time, from like just a drummer's perspective, I'd found Kevy had started to speed up his bars a bit and was getting, and my natural inclination was to start going along with him and catch all the 16ths. But it's actually one of the first songs where gotten everybody to slow down. Neil is right there in the pocket, bass together, and if you can listen to the hi-hats, they're just going as much as they need to, just really slow, funky, and get that sort of gravelly sound going before the fucking smashes. So like we try to keep it really swampy and let Kev's lyrics and let Lenny's bars, the whole lot of them, I think you're down there, sort of like make all the speed happen, and that's where the speed and the running effect sort of takes place. Whereas everything's just sitting underneath going really slow. It's brilliant. Really fun song. Like
give it a lot of space.
Fun song to play.
Yeah.
Actually, Sam, I had a question for you there, just kind of based on what you're saying. Do you find like as a drummer for this project, I mean, obviously where there's so much stuff going on, do you find that you try and replicate little elements of what each person's doing, or do you try and stick to the kind of like general rhythm of like bass and drums as a rhythm section?
Yeah, like, so this is definitely something. When I first came in, I was just learning the fucking songs and playing four on the floor, same beat as any good little drummer should do. But lads started like it was my first time doing stuff with hip hop and rap, and I'd sort of noticed where they'd put the emphasis in the second syllable of a 3-syllable word and things stupid like that. And both Kev and Lenny do really, really interesting things rhythmically with their bars. And so I started just naturally sort of picking up maybe a little bit of a hi-hat snare or little fizz, or cowbells. Great fun to have. Just trying to complement the rhythm as much as I can. And that just started happening with a bunch of practice with the guys. Like it wouldn't sort of have, I wouldn't have been able to do that if they weren't having fun already rhythmically. Definitely feed off the bars as much. Now Mark, the beautiful bassist Mark, is always in the pocket as well. And it's such a nice rhythm section to have because I don't ever actually have to worry about him. I know he's there, and I can then play around with what the guys are doing with their bars. And then we go into a nice big Mark Rhyss chorus, and I can just do the Ringo thing and keep it really simple back and choruses because need to get people to sing along.
Do you find that then doing kind of like this band has kind of like improved your skills as a drummer, or is it just a different way of thinking about what you already knew?
I've been a part of bands in the past where I just start wrecking my own head about not being on time or not being like not to the practice, not being on the fucking one, or just really worrying about getting my fills super tight and getting me chops and my rudiments. But like as soon as I joined these lads, as I said earlier on about the sort of pop punk thing, like at the end of the day, as long as we're all on stage having a good time, that's where the best music comes out from me anyway. Like I can't be sat there worrying and fucking anxious about any of the songs. Just to sit in the song and be happy. From that regard, I've definitely improved as a drummer, because it's just like to be comfortable in a band and kind of having that headspace to be able to play what I want to play, the next bar that I can hear. That just means everything to me. So yeah, absolutely.
And as someone who has watched Sam play drums for like 5 years,
I was 10 now, bud. Nearly.
he's always had a great technical proficiency, and he's always been able to, like, in a technique sense, out-drum any drummer I've ever met. But in the way that, like, as you say, Sam, that you're just your rhythm playing in terms of like the fun things you can do and like falling on the upbeat and all that kind of stuff has, like, just to be nice to Sam for a second. It's come leaps and bounds.
Lot of love.
Leaps and
Lot of
bounds.
love. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. One other thing I wanted to ask you, Kevin, Neil, and Lenny, is you were talking about the lyrical content of the song, and I was wondering, like, when you're kind of making sort of like, because actually I think, like, just in general, even like from the first album, I mean, I think like your music really does kind of represent just kind of modern living in Dublin in a lot of ways. When you're kind of just like making, I guess, kind of like sort of politically charged kind of music like that, or lyrics like that, and kind of like very socially conscious kind of lyrics like that. I mean, like, I guess, like, what's sort of the aim of what you're doing? Is it to kind of influence change? Is it just to give relatable stories to people, or do you even think about it in that kind of terms?
I think, in fairness, Kev and Lenny, I don't think are less necessarily being like.
I wouldn't say I'm politically charged in
Yeah.
any
Okay.
way.
No.
But yeah, like you said, like having something to relate to. You
Yeah,
know?
it's the relatability.
100%.
That's what we are. Like,
But
you know.
Like,
there is a political statement to it, though, isn't it? I mean, like,
yeah,
even talking about, like,
to be fair, like we're very pro everyone having a house and being able to have like affordable living, you know.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be happy with that, in fairness. That would be
No, but like
Yeah, like it's just more about sharing our
Yeah.
experiences and being like, don't you feel the same? You
And
know.
I think that's even inherent in the way that it's written, with like Lenny's and Kev's verse being very narrative. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they tell a story, and even like Lenny's like answering these rhetorical questions and like positing
Yeah.
kind of this idea, and Kev's telling this kind of like visual story about the lived experience of it. Like, I think that encapsulates it quite well, where it's like it's a political statement because politically it permeates every element of your life. So
Yeah,
if you're
of course,
just you can't help but make a political statement.
Yeah.
In a sort of that kind of sense. And then obviously there's a much more kind of direct political statement in my verse that's kind of it's just drawing from the concepts that have been put forward by the narrative already there, and being like, okay, we've given you this story. Every story is politically charged in one way or another, intentionally or not. And it was kind of a way of just being like, big text. This is what we're saying. But, you know.
But then, what is it? Is the intent then just for relatability? Then, yeah.
So for me, anyway, I would say, like, it's kind of just what you said with relatability. Like, me and Lenny, whenever we wrote together, it was always kind of writing about like what we're actually going through, and if people can relate to that, that's great. But we never went out with this mindset of like, let's go and write this piece so that it can prick people's ears up and they can be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is going on. That was never really the goal. We just saw this as kind of a therapeutic thing for ourselves, I think, rather than it being this politically charged kind of message. And that's how it's always been with us writing. You know, if someone can take something from that and use it for the better, that's great. You know, but I don't think it was originally seen as it's coming from a place of let's make a statement here and let's change something.
Yeah.
You know?
Because there are definitely, you know, there are groups out there who are doing that and much more equipped to do that, and like do it in a much more nuanced way. And I don't think we would ever try to occupy that space.
No.
Yeah, we're not intelligent enough to do that, you know.
Like, obviously as individuals we have beliefs, you know what I mean? Like it's not like we're kind of we don't want to present ourselves as people as like totally like amoral or whatever, but as a band we are really, and this was something that was difficult for me to accept for a long time in terms of like I would try to push a kind of political stance because that's very much so kind of the person I am. But I remember even like Kev would explain to me like that's you and that's great and that's 100% push it, go all the way with it. But the band is about kind of creating an enjoyable, relaxed environment for people, and there's so much political charged stuff, rightfully so, at the minute, and like there's just constantly so much screaming and shouting that like it is actually kind of a relief to find somewhere that's not about that. And we're like, we might be, look, as I say, politics will permeate everyone's lives all the time.
Fact.
And if we touch on that, we touch on it. But we're not, you know, we don't want it. We don't want anyone coming away from a gig saying, wow, I really learned something, or now I'm really thinking. We want,
you know,
I feel great about myself. I had a good dance. I had a good sing. They had a good, you know what I mean? Had fun. That's the prime directive, and anything that comes like from that, like Kev said, anything that people can take from it is great, but it's not something we really want to. Like,
and that goes back all the way back to what I said as well, of just like we all want to get on stage and have fucking fun. Like there's no point in getting worried about fucking missing a line on your verse or fucking, you know, missing the cue. We just if everyone's having a crack and everybody like in the audience is the name is having a crack as well. That's where we have the most fun. Like
that's the goal. Like you know,
100%.
But I think the audience really, I suppose, because I've heard it from again feedback from people going to the gigs. The main thing is that people would say to us is like, I'm having a good time because you are having a good time up there.
Like
it kind of resonates from the stage, I think, to the audience as well, because you can't fake it.
No.
And
if we got too bogged
having a good time.
If we got too bogged down with trying to put something out there, even if we really stood behind it, I think it would just take away from it. Like we want to be very just catharsis, you know, release of energy. Boom, you know?
But I think even with like Nintendo 08 and stuff like that, it's like, even though it is like a political statement in some way, talking about the recession and stuff like that, we're still having fun with it. Like with Lenny's verse, he's like trying to pay the rent without a rumble in me tummy, and we obviously put some emphasis on that. Like, you know, we're having fun with it. Like, you know, so I think it's kind of like it's a like with that, you know, in a political sort of world, it's like we're all in a shit situation, but we're kind of having fun with each other because we're all in the same situation, you know. It's the relatability, like,
for sure.
5-minute answer to that question. Sorry.
No, that's grand. So I want to talk then about new album that's coming out. So do you have a title or and when can like people generally kind of expect it?
The title will be Mustard Melodies.
Yes.
Mustard Melodies. We're hitting all the sauce.
Yeah, we have to get all the sauce titles out first.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then in terms of release, being as vague as possible, because
I'd say mid-March. We're hoping for mid-March.
Yeah, we're hoping
soon enough
before summer, but after February.
Quarter one.
Yeah.
Quarter one.
There's a 2-month period there that you can kind of
you know, you can figure it out.
It'll be
the clues are there.
It's largely finished. Like most of the parts are done.
It's written, you know.
Rhyss and Lenny are working away, producing like mad hats.
Almost pretty much the last bits. And then,
after today, and then it's just vocals, right?
Yeah.
So
I had the most.
Rhyss is the powerhouse behind the mixing desk. So
13 songs.
Once it's in his hands, we'll be able to absolutely belt it out. So mid to late March.
Yeah, and as you were kind of like mentioning earlier, like you know, this has more of a kind of like a sort of a band, kind of like a true band setting. I mean, how do you think, from your perspective, Rhyss, in terms of like mixing this one, like how do you find it differs from the previous one?
I think with the previous one, it was kind of more so for me mixing it and stuff like that. Obviously, I wanted it to sound good, but like that, because we didn't necessarily have a real, we didn't have a real aim with the previous album. So it was kind of just a matter of like, let's lift up the volume, maybe EQ, a bit of compression, and just kind of shove everything together. Whereas with this one, because we're a band now, it's like, I kind of have to make sure that everything's, properly recorded and, everything's to the best that it could be,
Right.
And like, there's a lot more rather than just, let's say going up to the microphone and just singing your verse once. It's like, no, do it a couple of times and, we'll edit it and make sure that it's the best version that it can be. And so with this one, I like, for Mustard Melodies, it's like, now it's, rather than just recording the song and like, here's a good song, it's like, no, here's the best version of that song now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I find like now, because like everyone has their piece that from your perspective, I mean, you have to kind of make sure everything kind of breathes, obviously, for music, but generally kind of giving people a bit of a spotlight each, or it's that even something that's in consideration.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of comes down to the song, and like, I think just trying to match, I think, how we perform it when we're rehearsing and stuff like that. It like just trying to recapture that as a recording, So it's like, you definitely take into consideration, like who's playing here and who's more important for the song here. It's like, okay, they're obviously going to be louder, and then even for like myself, like with Nintendo 08, like when the guitar comes in halfway through the verse, like it's not too important. So, and even for my own, like that's me playing, and I'm still like, I'm not as important as say Mark and Neil there, where they're real tight. They're the main part, I'm just kind of being a bit of filler. So like you are kind of mixing for everyone to have their piece and how loud they need to be, but how important they are to be heard as well. And like that, like if Neil's kind of shredding on the keys or anything like that, it's like, right, well, he's up front, loud and proud, like, I don't know if that answers that.
No, it does, yeah. That's perfect. So I guess like the final thing I'll just ask you all is what do you have planned for 2024 after the album comes out? Is it more gigging or more writing, or what's the plan?
Gigging
Back to the gigs.
Like I really think, and I think everyone would agree with this, like I think we are at our best when we're regularly gigging. Even like,
For sure.
And I say at our best as a band and just individually, I think all of us are, creative people tend to be nightmares, you know what I mean? So it keeps us all very well occupied to keep gigging and like do all that kind of stuff. And that always results then in just better experiences, better gigs, better music. So I think, we want to see a lot more gigs in 2024. We want to see a lot more kind of, working with a lot of new people, all that kind of stuff. So keep your eyes peeled.
Maybe couple of festivals if we get lucky.
Yeah.
But
if you have any friends,
we'll
some Sauce Gang Collective.
If anyone has any,
I know about this band called Sauce Gang, like.
Any holidays this summer, so
if anyone wants to share some nepotism with us, that would be it's hard out here,
There's a couple of things in the pipeline, but you can never have enough in the pipeline.
And I think that's something that Sam really beat into us, was a gig is a gig is a gig is a gig is a gig.
Yeah, we've had some gigs, and some gigs, but yeah, a gig is a gig is a gig is a gig. I think it's a Scott Pilgrim line, but like it is very important. There's been a couple where the one I wasn't there, another one someone else, and like other times we've had really bad sound or whatever, but we get a couple of followers off that and a couple more people listening to our music from the gig. Just like we're totally about just spreading the whole positivity of Sauce Gang, and just as many gigs as we can get, because it's definitely a bonus.
And it's also nice in the band not to have a focus on like social media and being that kind of band. It's fun to just be like a gigging band at the minute. It's like it might not be as lucrative, but we enjoy it more.
I'd say the priority for now is to actually, like, to be fair, is just getting this album done and then making it the sound like to send the best it
Ensure
can
as
be.
many people listen to it as possible.
Yeah. Once the
Yeah.
album, we can finally breathe.
As much money as possible.
Give me your ears.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I just had one last thing. I'm sorry, I'm gonna annoy you, but
No, it's
yeah,
fine.
just like we're talking about, like, all the the band members. Not every you were kind of mentioned there, Sam. Kind of like sometimes people can't turn up for certain shows and stuff like that. I mean, obviously everyone's so like integral to kind of the sound. I mean, like, do you find that you could do a gig if like a member was missing, or is it too?
Never
They
again.
agreed. They agreed
I
never
don't
to do
think
it
so.
again, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
I did a double booking and ended up having to work for the Dashi gig, and it was sort of an unplugged sound anyway. But Christ, I've heard nothing but bad things. The lads were so fucking depressed after.
It was so bad that actually shut down.
And like, I think
Those gang shut down Dashi.
even though there's 6 of us, you'd think, oh, you might not notice all that much if someone like steps out or something. Like, even just like from a moral point of view, I remember everyone after that gig being like, we should never do that again. Like, we've done
Yeah.
It's something that we want to share together, and it's something that isn't the same if it's not all of us.
Yeah,
I
literally, it's like
personally, I don't think there's any point doing it if it's not all 6 of us.
Yeah, it's
like
it's not Sauce Gang without the gang, like,
Yeah.
you need everyone there.
That's a perfect quote to go out on.
I think
Is
so,
there anything you guys like
Yeah.
that before we wrap up, or?
Stream Nintendo 08.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
At Sauce Gang Collective.
And spread
Yeah.
good vibes and positivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free Palestine.
Yeah.
No politics.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. No politics.
No politics.
Be free. Just
Yeah,
be free.
yeah.
Be cool.
That's political. All right. Thanks very much for your time, everyone.
Go on.
Sauce gang political.
Nice.
Sauce Gang radicalized me. Thanks very
In a
much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Nice one, Aaron.
Aaron, thank you so much.
No worries.
Thanks so much.
very
That
much.
was really.
Bye, bye.
Enjoy filtering through all of that shit. Jesus.
Yeah, a lot of waffle there. You might get one or two good lines.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, lads.
God bless.
Right. Adios.
God bless. Sauce
Bye.
bless.
Future love.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you liked it, please subscribe and stick around because we have plenty more like this coming soon.